Happy morning, children. I feel extremely glad to welcome you all for this wonderful revision section. Today we'll be doing with 11th standard biobotany. Okay, 11th standard biobotany, lesson 8. So you got two volumes. Volume 1 consists of 8 lessons, and we are going to deal with the last lesson, 8th lesson, that is the biomolecules. So I want you to join with me as we do our revision today. So this is lesson number 8, chapter 8, biomolecules. This lesson consists of 5 choose the correct answers. Okay, we'll start discussing one by one. 5 choose the correct answers are there. The first one we will take. I want you to carefully listen to this link and make note of the answers, revise them and get prepared for your exams. Is it clear, children? Okay, the first question is, the most basic amino acid is, the most basic amino acid is arginine, histidine, glycine, glutamine. So you are going to choose any one of this. To know this, we should know which amino acid is very common. So turn your book along with me to the types of amino acids. So you got many amino acids present in this picture. So let's see the names, okay. We found glycine there, and next we found arginine, histidine, okay, and one more thing is glutamate, I think. So 4 are there. One is glycine, arginine, histidine, glutamate. So of all these 4, which is the simplest amino acid? You tell me which is having a simpler structure. Compare this and with this. When you find it, this amino acid has got the simplest structure with amino NH3 and COOH1 group and CH. So this is going to be the simplest amino acid. So the answer is glycine. Is it clear, children? So for the first evaluation, the most common amino acid is glycine. So this would be the answer, glycine. Is it clear? Okay, second one. An example of feedback inhibition is, example for feedback inhibition. So 4 options are given. Cyanide action on cytochrome, sulfur drugs on folic acid and synthesizer bacteria. C. Allosteric inhibition of exokinesis by glucose 6-phosphate. D. The inhibition of succinic dehydrogenase by malonate. So these are the 4 options given. So we have to find the correct answer. To find this, let's move to the feedback inhibition. For every answer, it is a must that you should refer the textbook. So we learned some of the inhibitions. So inhibition of enzymes, let's look into these examples. We find something in the first paragraph. See here, malonate for succinic dehydrogenase is an example for what? Competitive inhibitor, but we want feedback, so that is not the answer. Then find something here. See, cyanide ion which blocks cytochrome oxidase. It is an example for irreversible, non-reversible or irreversible inhibitor. So this is also not going to be the answer. Then come over here. Do you find anything here? No. Let's turn to next page. Here, exos catalyze glucose to glucose 6-phosphate in glycolysis is inhibited by glucose 6-phosphate. This is an example for feedback allosteric inhibitor. Here is the answer. Okay. So we want the answer for feedback allosteric inhibitor, and here it is glucose 6-phosphate. So let's move to the answer. What is the answer here? Allosteric inhibition of exokinesis by glucose 6-phosphate. So option C is the answer. Children, always to find the answer, please get inside the book. Read the book and then take the answer from the book. That will help you to gain more knowledge. Fine. Let's move to the third question. Enzymes that catalyze interconvention of optical, geometric or positional isomers are A. Ligase, B. Lyase, C. Hydrolase, D. Isomerase. So we are going to find which enzyme it is. Now let's move to the types of classification. Okay. Oxido, not this one. Transferase, hydrolase. Yes, hydrolase. What is hydrolase? Hydrolysis of substrate by adding of water and molecules. So that is not going to be there. Then move to next page. You got ligase. What is lyase? Break chemical bond without addition of water. Okay, that's not the answer. Ligase. Formation of new chemical bonds using it. That is also not the answer. So what is the answer here? Isomerase. Let's see what is isomerase. Conversion of one isomer to another. So what is the enzyme called as? Isomerase. Okay. So what would be the answer for the next question? Enzymes that catalyze interconvention of optical, geometrical or positional isomers are... What is the name of the enzyme? Isomerase. Option D, isomerase. Is it clear, children? Is it clear? Come, let's go to the next question. Proteins perform many physiological functions. Okay, proteins do many functions. For example, some functions as enzyme. Some proteins function as enzyme. One of the following represent additional function. Apart from the enzymatic function, protein also do some additional function. What is it? Is it an antibiotic? Pigment color, conferring color to the skin. Do you know what is the name of the pigment? It is melanin. Okay, melanin pigment. Pigments making colors of the flowers. Colors. Chromoplast, anthocyanins, all those things. Hormones. Hormones is going to be the answer. Okay, so hormone D, it is an additional function of the protein. Now come to the fifth question. Given below is the diagrammatic representation of one of the category of small molecular weight organic compounds in the living tissue. Okay, here is the structure. This is one of the category which we have already studied. Organic compound which you have studied, no? It is one of the organic compound. So you have to find out what category it is and you have to mention what this X is. Okay, what category and what X is. Usually this 5 structure you will find in the nucleotide and nucleoside thing. So this category comes under nucleoside uracil. Nucleoside uracil. Let's refer the diagram also. Come on. This is going to be your nucleotide. Okay, nucleotide. In that the uracil, if you see, you will have the structure here having the X categories. The uracil is the X1. So when you add X to the nucleotide, it is going to be the answer. Maybe my explanation would not be clear for it, but the answer is the nucleoside uracil, option D. It is not given there. So option A, option B, option C, and it is option D, uracil. So far we have discussed about the 1 mark questions. Now let's move to the question answer session. So you have got 6 questions. We'll discuss them one by one. Okay, the 6th question is, distinguish between nitrogenous base and the base found in inorganic chemistry. Okay, so we are going to differentiate 2 types of bases. One is nitrogenous base. The other one is inorganic bases. Okay, base that is found in inorganic. From the very word in the question, one base belonging to inorganic. So what would be nitrogenous base? It is going to be organic. Let's look into the differentiation here. See, nitrogenous base, it is an organic molecule containing nitrogen element. Okay. So what is this base as given in the question? It is going to be an inorganic molecule. This nitrogenous base, it acts as a base in chemical reaction. See, we have a reaction to indicate acidic nature and basic nature. We have a pH paper, the neutral value pH 7 indicates it's neutral, and moving up to 7 and below the 7 indicates whether it is base or acidic. So this nitrogen base, it acts like a base in the chemical reaction. Here, this base, it releases OH, hydroxide ion. In the aqueous solution, they release the hydroxide ion. Example is given, see, sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide. So, in the aqueous solution, OH is released. So, this is about our ordinary inorganic base. Now, let's come to this. They are called adenine and thymine. The nitrogen base examples are adenine and thymine. What is this adenine and thymine? In our DNA structure, we have got the molecules here. See, the inside structure, the ribbon is connected by the nitrogenous base, thymine, adenine. So, these substances are called the nitrogenous base. Is it clear, children? So, this makes the basic component of our DNA. So, DNA is made up of adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine, which are going to be our nitrogenous base. So, this is the answer for it. Let me repeat again. It is an organic molecule. It is an inorganic molecule. It acts like a base in chemical reaction. It releases hydroxide in aqueous solution. Example, adenine and thymine, which you found in the DNA molecules. You found them in the DNA structure. And this is a sodium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide. So, this is the answer for your question number 6. Now, let's move to question number 7. What are the factors affecting the rate of enzyme reaction? So, you got some 5 to 6 factors. Let's see them one by one. Okay, factors affecting the rate of enzyme reaction. What are the factors? Temperature, pH. So, you will take that alone. Temperature, pH, substrate concentration, enzyme concentration. So, 4 concepts are there. Okay, 1 is temperature, 2 is pH, 3 is substrate concentration, 4 is enzyme concentration. So, based upon this, the rate of reaction is depending. You can find the flow chart, the graph diagram here. Temperature is here and the rate of reaction. As the temperature is increasing, at certain point it attains maximum temperature, after which it gradually lows down. Okay, see, let's see, as temperature increases, the reaction, the rate of reaction is keep on increasing. Okay, at optimum temperature the enzyme is active and then goes down. Draw this diagram. So, temperature here, rate of reaction. Let's talk the form. Heating increase molecular motion. Okay, as heating means high temperature. High temperature increase molecular motion. Thus, the molecules of the substrate and the enzymes move more quickly, resulting in a greater probability of occurrence of reaction. Therefore, the temperature that promotes maximum activity is referred to as optimum temperature. So, you got 3 points here. First point is heating increase molecular reaction. At high temperature, what happens to the molecule? They move quickly, and the temperature at which the molecules move quickly is called the optimum temperature, and you will have to draw the diagram for that, taking temperature on one side and rate of reaction on the other side. Is it clear? Okay, second point is pH. For the pH also you got a graph drawn over here. On one side you have the pH scale. 14 readings are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 14. And 8th will be the neutral, okay. And based upon this, how do they react? Increasing activity of the pH. As the pH is moving on, this pink color indicates enzyme. Okay, the P indicates pepsin. And C in violet color indicates the catalysis. It is also a type of enzyme. Let's see how does this enzyme pH activity take place. The optimum pH is that at which the maximum rate of reaction occurs. The pH change leads to an alternation of enzyme shape, including the active site. If extreme of pH are encountered by an enzyme, then it will be denatured. Okay, the activity will not be taking place. You see, this pepsin is an enzyme, but this pepsin is very much active in below 7. Okay, you can see the arrow below 7. And you can find this is a catalyze. It is again an enzyme. It is active above 7. Is it clear? So this is about the reading. You have to understand it. The third one is substrate concentration. For the given enzyme concentration, the rate of an enzyme reaction increase with increasing substrate concentration. As the rate of reaction increase, the rate of substrate concentration also increases. The fourth one is enzyme concentration. The rate of reaction is directly proportional to the enzyme concentration. You can see the graph for that. This is substrate concentration, that is rate of reaction. You can see as the concentration increase, the rate of reaction is also increasing. So both are equally increasing. That is why we have given directly proportion. See, these are the 4 types, children. You will have to learn the 3 diagrams and the important point in it. It may come as a 5-mark question. So first one is about temperature, this graph. The second one is about pH, this graph where you are indicating 3 different types of pigment. And third one, you don't have any diagram. Simply it is given. As the enzyme substrate concentration increases, the enzyme reaction increases. And the last one is, as concentration increases, the rate of reaction increases. So these are the points to be noted for your 7th question. Factors affecting the rate of enzyme reaction. Now let's move to the 8th question. Briefly outline the classification of enzymes. So enzyme classification we are going to learn. So here enzyme is classified by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 types are there. And they are given in the form of a table. Enzyme, mode of action, their general scheme of reaction and example for the enzyme. I want you to read all these 6 types. Oxidoreductase. What is oxidoreductase? What is the mode of action? They undergo oxidation and reduction reaction. Therefore called redox. Oxidation and reduction will take place. A for reduction, B oxidize, and both are taking place. Example, dehydrogenase. Second one, transferase. Transfer a group of atom from one molecule to another. See, A minus B plus C. What happens to this? It becomes as A plus C minus B. Example is transaminase and phosphotransferase. Third one, hydrolysis. What does hydrolysis do? Hydrolysis of substrate by addition of water molecule. A minus B plus water molecule is there. A minus H plus B minus OH, where H2O is divided. One H is here, another OH. The example is our digestive enzymes. Fourth is isomerase. Controls the conversion of one isomer to another by transferring a group of atoms from one molecule to another. Here you have the conversion. A minus B minus C is converted to A minus C minus B, which is an isomerase. And the fifth type is lyase. What does lyase do? They break chemical bond without addition of water. Example, A minus B is transferred to A plus B, which is called decarboxylases. And the next one is ligase. Formation of new chemical bonds using ATP as the source of energy. Ligase means joining, forming, bounding. Okay, forms new chemical bond. A plus B plus ATP. Here A minus B plus ADP. One phosphate is removed. DNA ligase. So this bonding is done by using the ATP. So these are the 6 types of enzymes. I want you to read this table thoroughly. It may be also coming in a 5-mark question. Next is, write the characteristic features of DNA. Very important question and an interesting question also. This is the structure of DNA. You are going to write the characteristic features of DNA. See, you find the answer here. If one strand runs in 5' 3 direction, the other runs in 3' directions, and they are anti-parallel to each other as they run in opposite direction. So this is your DNA structure. Okay, this is your DNA. One strand is running from where? It starts from here, 3'. It runs to the 5'. Another prime, you see, it starts with the 5' and it is running towards the 3. So that is why it is called anti-parallel. On one side from 3 to 5 and another side it is 5 to 3. So they run in anti-parallel direction. So this is your first point. So first point you will take till this. Okay. Second point, the angle at which the two sugar produced from the base pair is about 120 for the narrow angle and 220 for the wide angle. The narrow angle between the sugar generates a minor groove. So take point from this. Okay. The narrow angle between the sugar generates a minor groove and the large angle on the other edge generates the major groove. So this will be your second point. See, on the turning, when the DNA turns, you got a groove. Groove means depression, a depth like. So this is called the minor because it is of smaller length. And the same way, if you see this is a larger one which we call it as the major. So it is given here, you see, minor is a smaller one and the larger graph is called the major groove. So based upon the angle of how they rotate, this is shown in two opposite direction. I am telling you in the same direction. See, this is a smaller length which is called minor. Here you have a larger length which is called the major groove. So that would be your second point. Third point, each base is 0.34 nm apart and it completes turn helix complex 3.4 nm or 10 base pair per turn in the predominant B form of DNA. So you will take it as the helix. Okay, helix comprises 3.4 nm or 10 base pair. This is more important. 10 base pair per turn in the predominant B forms. Okay, each helix component consists of 10 base pair per turn. So this would be your third point. So if you take from this to this is one turn. Okay, in this one turn you will be having 10 base pair. Fourth point, DNA helix structure has a diameter of 20 angstrom and a width of about 30 angstrom. So this would make your fourth point. What is the fourth point? The diameter between this edge and this edge would be 20. Diameter is 20. And the length between one full turn is going to be 34 Armstrong. So, okay, so that is the diameter. The diameter is going to be 20 Armstrong and the width is about 34 Armstrong. Fourth point. Fifth point, the hydrogen bond between the complementary base of the double helix, you got an hydrogen bond. Very important thing is, there you have an hydrogen bond. And the stacking interaction between base tend to stack each other by perpendicular to the direction of the helical axis, electron cloud interaction between the base of helical. So the fifth point that you will have to learn is, between the molecules there is hydrogen bond. The next, sixth point, the phosphodiester linkage gives an inherited polar to the DNA helix and this forms a strong covalent to the chain. This is the sixth point. Sixth point is phosphodiester linkage. Now let's come to the bonds now. Hydrogen bond. See here, A paired with T. This A and T is paired with a 2 bond. This bond is called the hydrogen bond. And here see, cytosine is paired with G. Here you got 3 hydrogen bond. Okay, so these two are called the hydrogen bond. Now coming to phosphodiester bond. See, this line is made up of this ribbon. blue color ribbon is made up of sugar and phosphate. This sugar and phosphate is joined by a bond. This bond is called the phosphodiester bond, which is called the phosphodiester bond. So hydrogen molecules between the bases, base means adenine guanine, that is done by the hydrogen bond, and here it is done by phosphodiester linkage. And the next seventh point is phenatomic coiling. The two strands of DNA are wrapped in an helical. Okay, it undergoes a phenatomic coiling, where in paranomic coiling, the two strands simply lie alongside. They simply lie. It is called paranomic. But here it is plectonomic coiling, where the two DNA are wrapped around each other in an helical structure. And the eighth point is there are three forms of DNA. They are A DNA, B DNA and Z DNA. So 8 points are there, children. I've just simplified it into few points. So make note of those simple points and you have to draw the diagram for the structure of DNA. Now coming to the last question. The last question would be explain the structure and function of different types of RNA. So this will be our last question. Let's look into the different types of RNA. So you have RNA over here, types of RNA. The first one is mRNA, the second one is tRNA, and the third one is rRNA. You got the diagrams over here. This is a messenger RNA. mRNA means messenger RNA. rRNA means ribosomal RNA. tRNA means transfer RNA. So you got the diagram here, ribosome RNA, and this is the transfer RNA, and the notes are given over here. mRNA is a single strand. Okay, first point is single strand. Carries information. Okay, and it is a very unstable. Comprises of 5% of RNA polymer. And it is called as polycistronic in prokaryote and monocistronic in eukaryote. So these are the 5 points for mRNA. Again I repeat, the first point would be it is a single stranded and it copies instruction for assembling. Second point, it is very unstable. Third point, and it comprises of 5% of total polymer. Fifth point, in prokaryotic it is a polymonostric. Sixth point, in eukaryotic mRNA is monostric. So 7 points you got. Write it out in points and draw this diagram. Now coming to tRNA. It is called translate code from mRNA. First is they do the translation. Translate. Second, what do? They transfer amino acids to ribosome. So, okay, two things they are doing. First is they translate the code from mRNA. Second point, they transfer amino acids to ribosome to build the protein. Third is it is highly folded to elaborate 3D structure and comprise highly folded. So that would be your third point. It is highly folded. And how much percentage it is comprising? 50% of the total. So that would be your fourth point. It is also called as soluble RNA. Fifth point. Again I repeat, first is it translates the code, transfers amino acids. It is highly folded. It comprises of 15% of total RNA and it is called the soluble RNA, and draw this diagram. Is it clear? Now coming to the rRNA, ribosomal RNA. First point, it is single stranded, metabolically stable. Okay, so that single stranded, metabolically stable will be your first point. Then made up of two subunits of ribosomes. Okay, made up of two subunits of ribosomes will be your second point. And it consists of how many percent? 80% of the RNA. This would be your third point. Okay, and it consists of 120 to 3000 nucleotides. And it gives a shape to the ribosome, shape for the ribosome, and they are highly conserved and employed for polygenetic studies. The sixth one. I made a small mistake, children. While showing the tRNA, I showed this diagram. This is ribosomal RNA and this is transfer RNA. So while learning, don't look at the paragraph and get scared. You have to read and take the important points. This mRNA consists of 7 key terms. If you take this transfer RNA, it has got only 5 key terms. And you take the ribosomal, again 7. Learn these 7 key terms and the diagram. Children, with this the evaluation part is over, but still I would like to give you small revision about the entire lesson that we have learned in a few minutes. And you have got this code reader here. Okay, do you find that? I want you to go through this using the code scanner, open it up, go inside it and look into all the answers and additional questions that are discussed over there. That will help you to gain more and more knowledge. Don't just simply stick to your book back answers. Also go into additional learning. So with this, let me wind up our revision section, children. All the very best for your exams. Score good marks.